Oh, that was the first one that I saw you at. Oh, on Mill Pond Cove Road Drive.
Maybe this is my gavel, I guess.
Okay.
All right, I think we're gonna get going here, so let's get going. I'll call to order the Town of Mount Desert Planning Board meeting for December 8th, 2021. Welcome aboard. We are obviously having a hybrid meeting tonight as we are both in person here, partially on C Street and as well as on Zoom. Make introductions first, board members present, and then Christy's going to give us our little Zoom spiel. So board members present tonight, myself, William Hanley, chair. We've got Meredith Randolph on Zoom, vice chair. We've got Christy Anastasia on Zoom. And we've got Tracy Loftus Keller here in person. And tonight, Dave Ashmore, the fifth member of the board, he's actually in Florida and unable to attend. We do have a quorum tonight. And Christy, why don't you give us the Zoom spiel, please?
Yes. Didn't think I'd be given the Zoom spiel for 2 years. But if you haven't been on Zoom yet, you're in for a treat. This is a hybrid meeting, so we do have some folks at the in real life meeting and then the rest of the folks on Zoom. If you have a moment to go to the chat and enter your name, we'll use that as the list of people who attended this meeting. If you're not speaking, if you can keep your mic on mute, that'll limit some of the background noise. And if you have something you want to bring into the meeting, get recognized by the chair. Let's try not to use the chat for side conversations. And we're also very lucky because I think we can have like another 450 people join this meeting and we still have enough room.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. All right, let's continue down the tracks here. First item on the agenda, other than call to order, is approval of minutes. And we have two planning board hearings to approve. We've got the minutes from the 10:20 quarry. Three, sorry. 10:20 quarry, 11:10.
10:25.
Thank you. 10:20 quarry, 10:27 regular hearing, and then the 11:10 regular hearing. So why don't we start with the quarry minutes from 10:20?
Just a motion for each one for approval.
Please.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of 10/20/21, which were focused on the quarry application.
As written.
Oh, as written.
Meredith Randolph, I second that.
All right, all those in favor, Christy?
Anastasia, aye.
Meredith?
Randolph, aye.
Tracy?
Tracy Keller, aye.
And myself, William Hanley. All right, then we have the regular hearing minutes from 10:27.
I make a motion that we approve the planning board meeting minutes of 10/27/21, comma, as written.
Meredith
Tracy.
Randolph, I second. Oh, sorry,
She
Tracy,
beat
I'll
you
let you
again,
do
Tracy.
it. Let Tracy have it.
Okay, so we'll let Tracy have that one, Meredith. All right, all those in favor, Christy?
Anastasia, aye.
Tracy?
Tracy Keller, aye.
Meredith?
Randolph, aye.
And myself, William Hanley, aye. And then the regular hearing minutes from 11:10.
I'm on a roll. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of 11/10/21, comma, as written.
Tracy Keller, I'll second that motion.
All those in favor, Christie,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
Meredith,
Randolph, I.
myself, William Hanley, aye. All right, we're through the minutes. Let's move on to item 3. So tonight we have 2 conditional use approval applications. First one is conditional use approval application 22-2021. Owner name is Stephen DePaul and Elizabeth Renderio, trustees. Location is 72 Mill Cove Road, Mount Desert, tax map 11, lot 50, zone shoreline residential 3. Purpose is section 3.4, excavation or filling greater than 150 cubic yards. We had a site inspection at 2 p.m. And was this one advertised and the butters notified, Kim?
Yep. It was advertised in the November 25th newspaper edition, and a butters notice was sent out November 23rd.
All right.
I need to send a check for that, but then it's recruiting yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to recuse myself.
You know,
That's fine,
okay.
no. So I'll just clarify that I had talked to the owners last summer about possibly being engaged as an architect for this project. I'm not engaged. I'm not working on the project currently, and I didn't feel compelled to have to recuse myself. If the board feels otherwise, please let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna stay on board for this one. All right, we had a site visit at 2 p.m. and I think Christie, you made it to that. Would you like to kick it off and report on that?
Sure. We had a site visit at 2 p.m. and Greg and Tracy were also there. And we walked from the road where we parked across the property to the shoreline and the house, and then down to the shoreline, is fairly steep. It just kind of drops down to the water. And there is a set of stairs there, and you can walk down the stairs and stand practically right in the ocean and look back up at the shore, and you can see where it's undercut. There's a tangle of some trees and some tree roots and some big boulders and smaller boulders, but you can really see the effect of the wave action, hydrology, whatever is going on there that's undercutting the shore. And there was flagging, so we could kind of see the area where the work would be done. Tracy, anything you want to add to my highly detailed description?
Not too much, just the fact that when the work is done, it will be hopefully done in the wintertime, so there's harder ground, and the materials that are going to be put in to shore up the shoreline will be a different, I probably won't say this very well, but larger rocks and some smoother ones to kind of make it a more naturalistic appearance from the water. Trying to keep the existing, as much of the existing growth in place so that it's a natural waterfront edge. And that's about all I can add.
All right. Greg, I think we'll turn it over to you then.
Sure. Thank you. So the project itself, because we are, again, I guess my name is Greg Johnston, civil engineer representing Stephen DePaul for the project. The base of the project is at the planning board because excavation and fill in a shoreline zone that exceeds CEO authority, which is 150 cubic yards. At this side of the island is a pretty classic example of where there's a lens of clay underlying a layer of gravel. And particularly during freeze-thaw seasons, that creates like a slip joint where the gravel washes out with the water on the lens of clay. That's undercutting the bank. The process is following a temporary road in, which is a fairly moderately open area with some smaller spruces that is near sort of the power line entry that will have to be replanted following the exit. And generally, we clean out the loose stuff, use a geo fabric to kind of create a membrane between the soil, and then large diameter stones to keep pressure on that soil. And the first layer of rocks, which gets us sort of up out of the splash zone, is actually keyed in below the beach by about 18 inches. That seals it off from, say, a sucking action from the tide. And then after we get up off the splash zone, sort of a staggered approach that allows some planting pockets. We really want to avoid sort of the toothy jack-o'-lantern look of just stacked stones from the shore. So ensuring that we have some plantings in there. I think we talked about it with the board there. It's really important. It's important not only for probably the visual aspects, but we do have pending Army Corps and DEP permits for it. One of the protected resources the DEP is interested in is the view from the water back to the land. So that requires that you try to work with the vegetation that's there to the greatest extent practical, and then of course replant anything you need to remove. So and again, like we said, we'd like to do the project in the winter. With that, I guess I would turn it back to the board for review of the application or any questions.
All righty, so why don't I first open it up to public comment? If anybody in the public, either online or in person, would like to ask the applicant about anything, please do. Now's your time. All right, going once, twice. Not hearing any public comment. Let's close public comment. And first item of our review is any motion to find the application complete.
Meredith Randolph, I make a motion that we find the application complete.
Anastasia, second.
All right, all those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Aye, Anastasia.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
myself, William Hanley, aye. Perhaps is there another motion someone would like to make on this application?
Meredith Randolph, I make a motion to approve the application.
Anastasia, second.
All right, now we're gonna press the pause button here and we go through our review of the application. Relative to that, any thoughts on the type of checklist we should be using?
Meredith Randolph, I'd like to make a motion to use the short form.
Anastasia, second.
All those in favor, Christie,
Anastasia, aye.
Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
myself, William Hanley, checklist it is, short checklist at that. All right, so I've got the short form in front of me. I've got the application as well, and let's wade through it. All right, so we are first looking at section 6A, general performance standards, and section 6A1, compatibility. Greg's talking about the physical size, visual impact, proximity to other structures, and density of development. So see application. 6A2, erosion and sedimentation control. Talk about that it's going to conform the main DEP BMPs for erosion control. And
It is erosion control.
It is erosion control, exactly. So I would say C application. 6A3, highway safety. They're gonna access the site from Mill Cove Road, and there's plenty of parking off-site, so C application. 6A4 impact on town services. And so essential services are not impacted, so C application. 6A5 land suitability, it has suitable soils. C application. Lighting outdoor, NA. 6A7 stormwater. They talk about their erosion control measures during construction. C application. 6A8 vegetation. Applicant talks about no removal of trees adjacent to the road travelway and the removal of trees within the 75-foot high water line setback are purposes for the temporary access, and they'll replant, and that'll require replantings of 6-foot tall spruces at 8 foot on center as directed by the engineer. See attached plan, so C application. And then dust, fumes, vapors, odors, and gases. And there are none being produced, so C application. Our findings of fact are as presented by the applicant in the attached application, and the conclusion was that the proposed use is in compliance with the standards of section 6A, for which the standard has been met.
Meredith Randolph, I so move.
Tracy Keller, second.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
and myself, William Hanley, aye. All right, let's soldier on here is section 6B, specific performance standards for activities and land uses. So agriculture is NA, air landing sites, NA. 6B7, why we're here, excavation or filling. And the applicant talks about the excavation and fill are critical to creating a stabilized base for the shoreline and the vegetated portions of the bank, plant pockets, and that the excavation and fill is at approximately 190 cubic yards, so C application. And I would wager that the rest of section 6B is NA, and 6B8, fences and walls. NA, there are none proposed. 6B16, sign regulations, NA. 6B18, wireless communication facilities, NA. 6B19, animal husbandry, 2, NA. 6B20, mobile food vendors. I don't think the applicant was proposing any food trucks.
Not today.
6B21, rooming house, NA, and 6B22, hotels and motels. So the findings of fact are that the proposed use will include none of the specific activities or land uses described in section 6B except for 6B7, and the conclusion was that section 6B is not applicable except for section 6B7, for which the standard has been met.
Meredith Randolph, I so move.
Anastasia, second.
All those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
myself, William Hanley, aye. All right, and since we are in the shoreline zone, let's go through section 6C. Shoreline zoning standards for review by the planning board. I'm just getting that into the aligning with the application here. 6C1, agriculture is NA. 6C2, archaeological sites. Applicant says that the work is not listed on the Registry of Historic Places. And then MHPC has been contacted for review and comment as part of the NERPA permit process. So C application, 6C5 essential services. C application, they say no installation of essential services are part of this. 66 parking areas, NA, we're not providing parking. 67 marine freshwater structure performance standards. NA, we're only doing excavation and fill. 69 roads and driveways. NA, there's no new road or travel way being proposed. And 6011 water quality. They say refer to attached site plan, erosion control and storm water management practices will be employed to protect during the duration of construction. Greg, you checked NA, but gave us that description. Would you like to change that to applicable standard met?
I think I was referring to deposit or discharge to the waters and any pollutant. I didn't feel the project was depositing or discharging to the water of any pollutant. That's why we checked the NA. If it's more complete to suggest applicable standard met, I'm happy to adjust the master plan in the town office. I'll defer to the board.
What do you want him to do?
I would say, yes, he needs to come in and check.
All right.
That,
Yeah,
because
kind
he's
of.
answered it and asked and referred to this plan.
Yeah, so historically, Greg, if the answer differs from the checked box, then we have the applicant come in and change the box they checked. So, and initial it. So I'm gonna say C application and just come in and check the other box on your original application.
Sure, only that would be the board's decision that the applicable standard is met, that which would state to the previous condition that we are discharging any pollutant. That's why we considered it not applicable. So I don't mind either way. I just was reading that the pre-action of the statement is discharge a pollutant. And so we're not discharging a pollutant. That's why we check not applicable.
No activity shall deposit on or into the ground or discharge to the waters of the state any pollutant that by itself or in combination with other activities and substances will impair designated uses of the water classification of the water body, tributary, stream, or wetland. You guys want Greg to come in and change that, or are you good with NA? Guys being fellow planning board members. And I should say girls.
I mean, if he had checked NA, but not had said refer to the attached site plan, that would have been fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one or the other has to be done. Either the narrative stays there and the standard met is checked, or the narrative is removed and NA is checked.
Agreed.
I would suggest, because we have been told that as frequently as possible to say the standards met and not say NA, that even though you're not disposing of any waste, you've met the standard because you refer to erosion control and storm water management. I think you're safer saying
Greg, I think you're safer just coming in and checking.
I appreciate the feedback and we'll follow through with that.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the findings of fact for section 6 are that the proposed use will include none of the specific activities or land uses described in section 6C, except for 6C2, 6C5, and 6C11. And that the conclusion was that section 6C is not applicable except for 6C2, 5, and 11, for which the standard has been met.
Meredith Randolph, I so move.
Anastasia, second.
All right, all those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
myself, William Hanley, aye. And again, since we're in the shoreline zone, we have to just wade through section 5.9. And here we go. Will maintain safe and healthful conditions. See application. Will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. See application. 5.9.3 will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater. They say see application. 5.9.4 will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, and other wildlife habitat. See application. 5.9.5 will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters. See application. 5.9.6 protect archaeological and historic resources. See application. 5.9.7 will not adversely affect existing commercial fishing or maritime activities. See application. 5.9.8 will avoid problems associated with the floodplain. See application and is in conformance with the provisions of section 6A, B, and C for which the standard has been met. The findings of fact are see above, and the conclusion of law is all requirements of section 5.9 have been met.
597.
5.9. 5.9.7 should be NA, but the applicant has C application
But it's
checked.
not the shoreline commercial district.
It's commercial.
You want to change that one too, Greg?
Not a problem. I can do that.
So 5.9.7 is NA because it's not in the shoreline commercial district. Thank you. Any motion on that?
Meredith Randolph, I make a motion, as you said, to move. So move.
Perfect.
Move
Section
that
5.
bad boy.
Anastasia, second.
All right, all those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
myself, William Hanley, aye. Okay, are there any permit conditions on this one?
State permit.
Yeah, do we, the usual spiel about state and federal permits?
Of course.
Yeah. Greg, you agree you'll be getting the state and federal permits as required before proceeding with the work?
Agreed. And a copy of the pending applications are at the front office in the town office presently.
Okay.
So we
All
require
right.
you to do what's required.
What is required?
I said, we require you to do what's required.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Understood.
All right, let's circle back and press play on the approval vote. All those in favor of approving the application, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
myself, William Hanley, aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And may I say, Bill, that you're really sharp tonight.
Oh, we're
Nice
gonna
job.
move, we're gonna move right through this, Meredith.
You are so on top of it tonight.
Meredith, you're gonna be running the next one, so be prepared.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta get you that vice president resignation letter.
So come in and sign it when you can, please. And-
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can say.
We can sign that now. All right, let's keep going. The other conditional use approval application tonight is 23/2021. Owner's name are Christopher Campbell and Christina Poundgarten. Agent is Greg Johnston, GF Johnson and Associates. Location 26 Manchester Road, Northeast Harbor. Tax map 25 lot 18 Shoreland Residential. 1 is the zone, section 3.4, excavation or filling greater than 150 cubic yards for a terraced lawn and garden area. We had a site inspection at 4 o'clock, and was this one advertised and the butters notified?
It was advertised in the November 25th newspaper edition, and the butters notices were sent out November 23rd.
Right. And then I'll ask if there are any conflicts of interest on this one. I'll be the first one to say these are active clients of our architecture office, so I believe I'm gonna have to recuse myself on this. So, should I make the motion, or do you want?
No, Meredith,
Yeah,
you gotta bring Meredith in, she's got
Yeah,
to be
but-
the one,
so someone
Well,
first needs to,
Can I also suggest that maybe Tracy lead it, because I don't have anything. I don't have any checklists or anything.
I emailed it to you, but that's why I left the room. Check your
When did you
email.
email them to me?
Check your email. I did it just, when you guys started the first application.
Oh, okay.
I sent you the short and the long form, so you could just read it off your computer.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so I make a motion that we have, Bill recuse himself?
I think I make the motion to recuse myself, and anybody second that?
Tracy Keller, I'll second that motion to recuse Bill.
All those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
and myself, I guess I. And then with myself recused, then Meredith comes on board, but let's have a vote, may have a motion for Meredith to come on as well.
I would make a motion to have Meredith come on to conduct this hearing, please.
Anastasia, second.
Randolph, nay. All right, fine.
Let's get a vote on that. So Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
Christie,
Anastasia, I.
Meredith.
Randolph, I.
All right, and I think I don't vote because I just recused myself. So,
Right. Okay, so you already announced what the application is. This is a conditional use permit. Need to pull up my email.
While you're doing that, may I describe the site visit?
That would be fantastic, and yes, let's start with that.
Okay, I went to the site visit with Greg Johnson and observed a new building, a house with land that sloped rather steeply in a long sort of field down to the water. And the project involves addition of quite a lot of soil, which will be configured in some several terraces, and then going down to sort of a yard. And it looks like there are waiting to be planted a number of decorative rooted trees that will be below the terraces, but leading up to the shoreline. And Greg, when this is the ideal one, when you make your explanation, to do some screen sharing of those images, because they're really instrumental in giving the other people an idea of what's going on. But it looks like a very good aesthetic for that area, and also an very beneficial method of keeping the, or I should say that method, but a means to keep the water from removing soil. So each embankment front would be like a retaining wall and keep everything in place. Please make your presentation, Craig.
Does anybody else, was anybody else there that was on the board?
No, just the two of us,
Okay.
Greg and myself.
Greg, do you want to present?
Sure. Yep, I would. Thank you, Tracy. And I'm going to identify Emma Kelly, the landscape architect, is also on. And I will screen share to kind of hit the merits of the proposal. Let me get to it first of all. And I'm sure I have not screen shared yet. So I want to make sure I got to the right place. Let's try that.
Yep. Looks
Yes.
good.
All
Yep.
right. As part of the plan is what is now a sloped area, a recently remodeled home. The general purpose is to reduce slope. So by terracing, we can reduce slope, and which will, reduce potential for erosion, but also give some curtilage around the structure in a terraced manner. The purpose we're there is that the excavation and fill, again, in the shoreline zone, requires planning board approval. The spaces also become a little bit easier to be traversed on the outside space by demarcating sloped from flat. And then by doing so, also providing a better root base than what's there to add some native planting and screening to increase some privacy. I'm scrolling over to what is the site plan now. And you can see in orange is sort of the terraced walls we just saw in section, planted up bouldery side slope, and then some screenings from the adjacent property on the sides. And again, it's the amount of fill required to accomplish it, but in the end, it'll create more usable and stable space around the site. And here's a beautiful rendering by Emma Kelly, landscape design team, and basically showing you from probably I guess it'd be the easterly side looking towards the west, and the purpose. So we also did observe, I would say, a fairly impressive system of erosion control was already in place during the snowstorm. It seemed to be performing well. The bottoms of the silt fence were keyed in the slopes. There was wood chips present. And they'll continue to be diligent about those aspects, not only just in installation, but maintenance throughout the duration of the project. Hopefully that gives you an idea of the purpose, the reason why we're here, and I pass it back to the chair for questions and our comments from the board. Thank you. Unless I missed something.
No, I think we need to still vote that the application is complete. We skipped that.
Make all other comments.
Oh, I'll make a motion to say that the application is complete. Tracy Keller.
Anastasia, second.
All those in favor, Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
Christy,
Anastasia, aye.
Meredith Randolph, aye. And then we have to do the, make a motion to approve the application that will then pause.
Oh, how about the public comment section? Don't we need to do that first?
Well, I think that is part of the review, so don't we have to, we should have done this probably before we had, I can't remember, when did we do it? But I don't think we have the public review until after we are reviewing the application. No, I guess you're right, maybe we do have public review first. So, open up to the public. Is there any public comment? Concerns, questions?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Greg,
Yes.
the plan that you showed, that Emma did, that shows the boulders along the tree line, the third, I think it was your third slide.
Yes.
Is this the parking area for the abutter in the photo?
No. Is it from the parking area? I think it's more, I guess I didn't hear. The rendering was from probably not all the way down in the abutter of the parking area, but probably more just over the property line, because those 3 trees there are in the foreground in that rendering, if you want me to bring it back up. And I'll quickly interject that I want to make sure Emma had a chance to comment on any of these things, because I had the screen share up. I forgot to recognize all my good colleagues on this call, and so jump in at any time. But does that answer your question, Kim, of where it was taken from, or?
Well, I mean, is that, is the boundary line, the trees, the 3 trees, or where's the property line?
Yeah, it's pretty much, if we're looking at this.
Is that the abutter's driveway?
Yeah.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yes. Shadowed is the paved driveway, correct? Yes.
Yeah, so there's no cause for concern of erosion control, or after this is installed, for the neighbors to have any drainage issues coming on their property?
No, in fact, the access is temporary now, and what you'll see just over there is sort of a bouldery slope that's landscaped in with root base and is all permanently stabilized with vegetation or hardscape. So the end condition, there will be no issue.
Okay, thank you.
So we were at, do we have any comment from the public? Any questions? Anybody else? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, so public comments closed. Do we have any more questions from the board, or do we want to vote to find it complete and then do the review? Or vote to approve and do the review? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Anastasia, second.
Okay, let's go through anybody want to have a vote for short checklist?
Anastasia, I make a motion that we use the short form.
Oh, Tracy Keller, I'll second that.
All those in favor, Christy?
Anastasia, aye.
Tracy?
Tracy Keller, aye.
And Meredith Randolph, aye. Okay. So we have section 6A, 6A1, compatibility. And Greg has a whole write-up. Doesn't increase density. Earthwork was limited to project site adjacent to existing structures. So C application. 6A2, erosion and sedimentation control. That is what the application is all about. Greg gives a description. Erosion control measures will be installed prior to earthwork and will maintain for the duration of the project. Down gradient all disturbed soils. Project will adhere to Maine DEP standards for erosion control, devegetation, and loam and seed of disturbed area to follow earthwork. I would say see application. Highway safety doesn't have any effect on the highway safety. I guess I should be stating whether it's C application or NA. I'm confused because I don't see the check on the application because there's no opportunity there.
6A3.
6A3, right? He's got stuff written up.
Then I would say C application.
Yep, C application. Okay. 6A4, impact on town services, will not burden the town. C application. Land suitability, similar development adjacent to the project site on similar soil. Fill activity associated with proposed use will consist of clean backfill material free of organic and other debris. More permeable substrate imported will increase infiltration. C application, lighting, I would say is NA, as does Greg. Stormwater, 6A7.
Hey, Meredith,
Yes.
6A6, Greg's checks NA, but there is gonna be landscape lighting along the walkways, outdoor
Thank
lighting.
you. Yes, so Greg, that really shouldn't, you've got lighting, so it shouldn't, do you have an explanation of why you checked NA?
Isn't the precursor that they're greater than 1800 lumens to be applicable to that standard? The first section, it says all lights greater than 1800 lumens is the precursor. So we explain that it's not greater than 1800 lumens, therefore not applicable.
I think it's saying that you're not allowed to have lights, that's the first requirement to be reviewed. I don't think there's anything.
I think it's a condition for reviewing against light standards. Isn't that correct? Lights under 1800 lumens aren't regulated.
Isn't it? Oh, where's that one? Oh.
I think you're safer since you do have lights that you've met the standard.
That's the majority of the board's understanding. I'm happy to comply with it. I think that we just stating to the fact that 1800 lumens are there.
That you're not exceeding 1800 lumens.
Correct.
Does the rest of the board agree that he should be checking standards met rather than NA?
I get what he's saying, but when I look at it, it says purpose, then it says requirements, and under the requirements, the reference to 1800 lumens is that if it's greater than 1800 lumens, then it needs to be shielded to direct the light towards the ground. It doesn't say if you have something less than 1800 lumens, this doesn't apply.
That's the way I read it. Tracy?
Yeah, I think it would make, I think you leave the wording in, which is fine, but check applicable standard met.
I think I would just add that irregardless for the lighting that would be there, the second statement states that it will be fully shielded, even though less than 18 lumens. So we don't have any sort of, position of not meeting that standard. So we're fine with correcting the original.
Check the box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stormwater. All stormwater management, did I just read this? Will be inspected and maintained on a daily basis and before and after all rain events. Sediment barriers such as silt fencing and hay bales will be installed down gradient of all disturbed soils. Clean fill will increase infiltration potential. Greg, these little end notes are confused me a little bit. What are you trying to tell us by saying clean fill increases infiltration?
I think what you have and a lot of times on the shore is the old compacted topsoil that is just really prone to runoff. And when you have clean fill that's well drained, I think you have a more stable site, particularly in longer duration storms and storms that are kind of reoccurring. I think you have a natural capacity of to retain more water on site just because you have more permeable soil than exists native. Right now, it's compacted and tracked from history of glacier and construction, and by the improvements, I think you can actually loosen it up and allow some more infiltration. That's the purpose of those notes, and anyway, hope that helps.
Thank you. That is helpful. C application, vegetation. Removal of any vegetation will occur only within proposed used area. Revegetation to follow earthwork activity is directed by landscape architect. The goal is to permanently stabilize the area with vegetation of if not stonework. I'd say C application. Dust and fumes, vapors, odors, and gases. No erosion or noxious odors will be produced by proposed activities. I would say, therefore, that's an NA. Do we have a board member that wants to make a motion? Oh, no, I need to say the whole thing that Bill said. Finding of facts.
Yeah.
Are as presented in the application. Conclusion of law is that all standards are met of the ordinance in this section.
Meaning section 6.
6A.
6A. Yep. Anastasia, second.
Oh, sorry. So all those in favor, Tracy?
Tracy Keller, aye.
Christy?
Anastasia, I.
Meredith Randolph, aye. Section 6B. Agriculture, is an NA. 6B2, air landing strip, NA. 6B7 is excavation. That's what we're discussing. Excavation and fill associated with proposed use is approximately 630 cubic yards. Project is located wholly within the SR1 zoning district and requires conditional use approval.
Meredith, I would just want to add to that piece there that the 630 yards is half cut and half fill. It kind of accommodates all soil being moved around the site, so it's not all being brought in. It's half and half, just to kind of put that in context of what it is, because the term is used excavation and fill. So that's the totality of from here to there, not all being brought in. I just wanted to clarify, make sure that was in the record.
Okay, that's good. I think I missed a spot. So I would say the C application, fences and walls is NA, sign regulation is NA, wireless communication NA, animal husbandry NA, no mobile food vendors NA, rooming houses and mobile, oh, what am I saying? Hotel and motels are all NA. So the findings of facts are as found in the application, and the conclusion of the law is that all standards of 6B were NA except for 6B.7 where the standard has been met.
Hey, Greg? Greg,
Yes.
how high are the walls? Retaining walls?
So the adjacent grade is less than 3 feet, so that they don't need rails next to the terrace.
So they're under 4 feet overall height?
Correct. Yep.
Is that all of them?
I believe that is. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Emma, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, there is, I will say in point of fact, I believe a corner, the tallest corner of the upper terrace, 375, 42. We're refining that, the height detail, but if it does exceed in the final design, we'll apply for a separate permit with, we understand that to be a permit to be got directly with the CEO, with Kim.
That good with you, Kim?
Yep.
So I'm going to return to Meredith's proposal for a motion on 6B. And I would say that to follow up her last statement on it, having to do with only 6B7 being applicable and the standard being met, so moved. Christie?
Anastasia, second.
All those in favor? Tracy?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, Christy, okay, go ahead. Tracy,
Anastasia, aye.
Tracy?
Sorry.
Tracy Keller, aye.
Meredith Randolph, aye. On to 6C. Shoreland zoning standards for review by the planning board. 6C.1 agriculture NA. 6C.2 archaeological sites. I assume, Greg, that you have in here about the. Did you not have to come up with the map?
Having a hard time hearing you, Meredith.
Oh, did you, for archaeological sites, did you not have to show the archaeological?
Yeah, we're not within the shoreline zone that triggers a NERPA. It's simply the excavation and fill well outside the 75-foot around an existing residence.
Oh, so you're in shoreland, but you're upland from the shore.
That is, you are correct. Yep.
Okay. So NA, essential services, NA, parking area, NA, marine and freshwater structures, standard NA, roads and driveways, NA, and water quality. And I should think, now I gotta go back to that application. Stormwater and erosion control measures are to be employed and for the project duration. Regular inspections and maintenance required to ensure conformance. So 6C1, 6C11 is C application. And the findings of fact are as found in the application, and conclusion of law is that all of 6C as NA than other than 6C11 where the standard has been met.
Tracy Keller, so moved.
Christy, we need you.
Sorry, I'm here. Sorry, that's what I was dealing with, was a dog. Anastasia, aye.
All those in favor, Tracy,
Tracy Keller, aye.
Christy,
Anastasia, aye.
Meredith Randolph, aye. And then one last section, 5.9. Will maintain safe and healthful conditions, see application. Will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface water, see application. Will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater, see application.
NA.
That's it.
Oh. NA, okay.
We get a 1 in 3 chance.
Oh, you don't have any wastewater.
Correct.
Will not have any adverse impact on spawning grounds of fish, aquatic life, birds, and other wildlife inhabitants. Habitants, not inhabitants.
Habitat.
Habitat, yep.
Okay.
NA will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters. Is that NA?
Mhm.
Yep. I lost track of where it was. Will protect archaeological and historical resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. NA will not adversely affect existing commercial fishing and maritime activities in the shoreland commercial district. NA will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use in compliance with the flood management ordinance of the town of Mount Desert. NA is in conformance with the provisions of section A6, A6, 6A, 6B, and 6C. And the standard has been met. So the findings of fact are as shown in the application, and the conclusion of law would be that all of section 5.9 is NA, except for 5.9.9, and the standard has been met.
I so move.
Except for 5.9.1 where there's C application and 5.9.2 C application.
Correct.
You see, I can't read all this stuff and pay attention at the same time.
So if we add those two in, I will
Yeah, no,
second
you're
that
right.
motion.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so back at the beginning, we did have those two. Okay, thank you, Tracy. So Christy, you moved.
And I seconded it. I said with
Okay.
those amendments that I would second that.
All those in favor, Christy,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
Meredith Randolph, I. Do we have any permits of condition?
Building permit.
Permit conditions. See, I am not sharp tonight. Bill needs to come back.
You're doing great.
So it was mentioned by someone, a building permit?
To obtain all the state and federal permits.
We require all the requirements.
That's the truth.
Yes, you're conditioning it.
We require all the requirements that are required.
That's a good one.
We'll accept that condition.
So does that mean we are ready to go circle back and vote? All those in favor of approving the application? Christy,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
Meredith Randolph, I. And I make a motion to bring Bill back on as board chair.
Thank you.
You need a second on that? Second that motion.
Yes, please.
Anastasia, second.
I don't know. Was I allowed to make that motion?
I think
You can
so.
make the motion, yes.
Okay, okay. All those in favor, Christy,
Anastasia, I.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
Meredith Randolph, I.
Oh, thank you, Meredith.
Thank you, Bill.
You did
Thank
an
you.
excellent job. Good job.
Oh,
All right, let's keep going. So item 4 on the agenda tonight, we have a subdivision approval application, section 4.1, pre-application procedures for subdivisions. And we have a sketch plan tonight. We have subdivision 005-2021. Owner name is Edith Dunham and Justin W. Heater. Sorry. And the agent is Greg Johnston, GF Johnson Associates. Location, Upper Dunbar Road, Seal Harbor. Tax map 31, lot 99, zoning district is the Village Residential 1. Purpose is for a 4-lot subdivision. And we had a site visit at 2:45. And was this one advertised in the butters
It was
notified?
advertised the 25th. The butters were not notified. It's not required, only to be published in the newspaper.
Got it. I'll ask if there's any conflict of interest on this one. None heard. We jump into the site visit, and Greg and I were in attendance, and it is on, as it states, on Upper Dunbar Road. It's a 4-lot subdivision. The minimum lot size up there is 10,000 square feet. On Dunbar Road, Upper Dunbar runs north-south. So abutting Dunbar Road, we've got three parcels. You know, the lot is essentially a cleared lot. It's currently being used for like lobster trap storage. So they've got 3 10,000 square foot lots along the road. And then the lot's kind of L-shaped. So the deeper part of the L, parcel 1, is in the back towards Lower Dunbar. And that's accessed off of Dunbar Road by a right-of-way on the south side of the 4-lot subdivision. It's got town sewer, there's a fire hydrant there. Upper Dunbar has overhead power extending down it. And Greg, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think again, we're at a sketch plan phase, which is just really a rudimentary introduction, and to gather any feedback from the board that might jump out before we head into what is probably the committal process of the completeness stage. But the parcels of combined are around 43,000, about an acre right now. The parcels are owned presently in percentages by members of a family. And the goal is, because they own percentages, to actually then convert those percentages to real fee ownership of parcels. As you mentioned, there is sanitary sewer along Upper Dunbar, and the property does have.
Greg,
Yep.
can you screen share that C1 plan?
Sure
please?
can. Yep.
Just as we're in the environment of sketch plan review, and it's always good
Good.
to
Great.
set the point and talk at.
No, I appreciate it. Let me make sure. Did I let's see, is the screen share, there it is, right there. Got it, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for the pointer. We have north heading this way. Again, the parcels are owned in percentages, and the idea is they each want a fee percentage. Curiously enough, and Kim and I have spoken about this, that this parcel was originally part of a land division in 1908. And the parcels that these are being kind of returned to reference this, whoops, let's see, this configuration of plan from way back in 1908. I think that I don't believe it's a revision of subdivision. Subdivision law wasn't in then, but it's been conveyed in through the families, and the purpose is to return it to almost these original shapes, except for that there has been some minor out conveyances along this line since that 1908, but it's always interesting to see plans, oops, excuse me. Over time, let's see, sorry. And so there does exist sewer easements, because Upper Dunbar is where the sewer is located. So there are a number of sewer lines that pass through the property en route to the sewer. We'll have to respect those easements in the final configuration. With that, I guess we would turn over any questions or any particular things that the board will be highlighting in our sort of completeness portion of the undertaking.
Any questions from the board for the applicant about the sketch plan here?
So I'm just curious, are there any other underground utilities other than the sewer?
The power along the road, so the power along the road is above ground, and the individual parcels can take directly off the grid in front of their parcels. So there wouldn't have to be a separate power extension into the site. They would be just like their abutters, which are all above ground.
Are they on town water, or are they on? Do they have
They are.
wells?
They are on town water. In fact, there is a water line in Upper Dunbar, and there is a water line in Lower Dunbar.
And two, I'll just clarify that, commenting here on sketch plan, this is just an informal discussion about the project. If there's any members of the public too that want to chime in, please do. It's not just reserved for board comment.
So Greg, there's kind of funny little snorkel on
I was
office.
just gonna ask about that, like
What's the
between
little
1 and
snorkels?
3, yeah, and 3 and Schubert, there's those weird little
What are you
pieces.
trying to
hanging
get
off.
at?
So there's a desire to keep them as close to the historic orientation between the family members and sort of the historical lines. Not sure this is drawing real. We're down here, and so in order to keep them as close as possible, there's a bit of jockeying to get minimum lot area into the parcels, which results in some, I guess, odd configurations in meeting the land area. And this parcel is sort of the originals, yet some of this original, which was down here, had been conveyed to this parcel. So it's more of a less of meeting some land areas requirements. That simply this line, if continued straight up, would probably not meet the 10,000 square foot increment.
Greg, was I correct in understanding that it appears to be a right of way on the south side of parcel 2? That's how you get back to parcel 1? Whereas parcel 1 being accessed from lower Dunbar?
Parcel 1 would be accessed from lower Dunbar. It's this right of way is actually for sewer that's shown here that goes to this property. So at the present, they could be accessed differently. So from either side. So that right of way is that you're seeing is for sewer that also comes down here. And there's also these two sewer lines share and come down through here. So over the years, there were grantings of these sewer easements, which also sort of bifurcate physically the parcels.
Got it.
Will parcel 1 use the same sewer easement through 2 to tap into the sewer?
Not the same easement. Nope. They'll be in the final plan, we'll have to provide an access for them, and it will not be through this existing one. So nobody finds it peculiar that the sewer is downhill, yet it's on upper Dunbar. Nobody finds any, and that everything's flowing to upper Dunbar. Maybe that's just the engineer, but everything from lower Dunbar flows to upper Dunbar.
Is it physically upper, or is it just like the entrance of upper Dunbar is upper?
I think it's because the entrance is upper. I think it's a little bit lower on upper Dunbar at that location.
Well, there you go, engineer.
Yep. So we definitely have some work to do in showing access, which is required as part of the subdivision ordinance, stormwater management, recognizing these existing easements. But in an area where it's a neighborhood of town sewer and water, it can happen relatively, I think, consistent with what is adjacent to the properties around them, because they were all generally, I don't want to say generally, but sort of historically based on this plan from 1908. And a lot of the deeds in and around the properties in the area are still conveying parcel to parcel referencing the 1908 plan. So these lots that are being proposed are not, I would say, are more consistent with the neighborhood, and that the large outlier 1 acre parcel is not.
So Greg, is it helpful? It seems to me that we've had discussions in the past with subdivision plans as to whether you need to be labeling the name of the property owners across the street.
Okay, I think that's good.
I don't know that everybody, but it seems to me.
Yeah,
we
they're
need to
legitimate.
clarify. Yeah,
They're a legitimate abutter. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
I'll do it. I'll ask if there's any public comment. Not hearing any, and this is how sketch plans usually play out. We just kind of generally talk about the project and continue on with the process from there.
Okay.
The process being then completeness and compliance review, and those will be at later planning board hearings. So I feel like we're all set. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we may be seeing you later tonight still.
Maybe one more time. I was told to do it in one large dose and not show back up again for the rest of the winter. So that's what I was trying to do.
Got it.
That's how it was taken.
All right, let's soldier on here. Okay, you guys gotta bear with me here. Gonna read through this. We're on item 5 on the agenda tonight.
Four?
But
Oh, 5, Roman numeral, okay, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, we just rounded out 4 the subdivisional approval applications, and now we're on to 5. We've got some land use zoning ordinance, section 6B lots and access. And what that talks about is that no lot may be built upon or otherwise developed unless it has a private road or driveway for access to a public way by a valid right-of-way benefiting the lot, or by ownership of land abutting the public way. And in bold, underlined, if more than 2 lots are accessed by the same private road, then it must meet the street design and construction standards of section 5.14 of the subdivision ordinance. And if no more than 2 lots are accessed by the same private road or driveway, then it must meet either the said street design and construction standards or the driveway construction standards of section 6B6 of the land use ordinance. A pre-existing primary access drive that serves up to 2 existing lots need not meet the requirements of section 6B6. All lots must maintain safe access for fire, police, and emergency vehicles as determined by the fire chief. And then the subdivision ordinance goes on to say, under section 6, waiver and modifications of this ordinance 6.1.1. And what that says is that where the planning board finds that a private road providing access to a lot or lots cannot meet the street design and construction standards of section 5.14, because A, the application of land use restrictions would prevent the work required to bring an existing road into compliance, or B, the physical conditions of the site render strict compliance impossible, then the board can waive such standards. However, in all such cases, the board must find that A, the proposed plan brings the road into compliance as much as is feasible. B, the proposed plan will provide safe access to and from the property. And C, the proposed plan will allow for access to the site for emergency vehicles. And tonight we have two applications under that section. And the first one, item 5A, we have property owners Hillary and Philip Kennedy. Agent is, Greg Johnston, GF Johnston Associates. Property location is off Raspberry Lane right here in Northeast Harbor, tax map 27, lot 25, zone Village Residential 1. And the purpose is to request a waiver of the street design and construction standards of section 5.14 of the subdivision ordinance for an existing private road. We had a site inspection at 3:30 today. Was this one advertised and the butters notified?
Yes, it was advertised in the 25th edition of the newspaper, and the butters notices were sent out on 25th.
Fantastic. And I'll ask if there's any conflict of interest on the board with this. None heard. Tracy and I attended the site visit at 3:30 with Greg. Tracy, I'll let you.
Okay, so the road it's a sort of a, I would call it a sort of cart road. And the grass is grown over it, but it's very well defined. And the objective of the second site is in a little bit and off to the right. And the cartway has got to be widened a little bit. And in order to do that, I believe they're alternating. There are two trees that are inset a little bit that need to come down, but two of the other trees are back far enough that they can be remaining. And then the road bed would traverse over a culvert. And then there's some alders that have grown up that will be removed to allow the roadway to go through. And that would provide sufficient access to the back lot.
Yeah,
How'd I do?
excellent. A+. The access in, is not necessarily constricted other than by the mature tree growth towards Sinclair Road. And mature tree growth is, there's 3 adjacent trees right on the right of way. And then in the back, it opens up to the big field on the west side. And then there's an alder line that, just the scrub alder line that encroaches into the right of way. And it's not by any means a meandering road. It is a straight shot right back there to the south off of Sinclair Road. And Greg, I think if you could take it from here, and I'd encourage you to screen share the plan as well too, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to share screen. So as the prelude to this hinted, that we're in the road waiver modification standards that links the land use to the subdivision ordinance. And one of the precursors is that when you're accessed by more than accessway more than 3 lots, then you apply for the road waiver standard. And the conditions which the board weigh in is that strict compliance will prevent work to bring into compliance or physical conditions. So we'll talk about those later, but the precursor in being at least 3 lots along Raspberry Lane in this historic 16.5-foot right of way. We have did some test pits to establish there was a gravel base there, so there was a road there, and there is evidence of a structure in historical photos. I haven't found the assessors or what was actually there, but there's some old pits from excavation and pipes there. So historically it has existed. This is the location map. Probably go, if we're looking at the way in, the trees which are, sorry, trying to find my controls here. The birch is within the right of way. It's not in great health. It would have to be removed. These other ones are outside, and prior to this photo in the foreground, there's another tree that's outside. In order to meet the safe entry requirements, we would have to limb the ones that are outside the right of way, but remove the one that's inside the right of way. And so that is part of the programming. I'm going to scroll through to just get some other pictures before we get into the, here is the site aerially. This is sort of looking back up through the road from inside to the Sinclair. Whoops, I'm losing the ability to control the computer. So we have the birch that's in here and the other trees which are outside of it. Now, the purpose of it is that if strict compliance would can happen. Well, the ordinance allows a road waiver if you physically can't construct a 22-foot wide road on a 16.5-foot right of way. So strict application of land use restrictions prevent the work from bringing into compliance because you just can't fit a 22-foot wide road. And then physical conditions, the safe access provision for driveways is a 12-foot travel surface, which can occur. The purpose of doing test pits, we think, is some good gravel base that can be used to build the roads. We're gonna have a lot of fill, so we feel that we can relatively contain the improvements of the road within the right of way. And then the commitment, if you can think about the access to a driveway, in a narrow access, 16.5 feet wide, the fire truck's requirements are 14.5 feet clear horizontally and vertically. Those spatial requirements compete with power poles. You can't really have 14.5 clear and a 16.5-foot right of way and a power pole and a fire truck all in the same space. So in way to mitigate that, the owners have committed to sort of an underground power to provide as much space as practical in providing the safe access. So hopefully that rounds it out. I think the other thing worth considering when we talk about is there a turnaround and some of the conversations for emergency vehicles. We spoke length with the fire chief a while ago and again recently, but there is a hydrant right at the end. They need to drive a pumper truck up in there and shuffle water around. Really isn't how they would go about it because they could hook onto the hydrant that's right here within 200 and 270 feet of the site. So physically, we are using as much of the right of way to make it safe. The existing gravel base minimizes what we have to do to improve. The grade is level as any driveway you would see in Mount Desert. And so I think it's actually a pretty prime example of how the board in recent years have tried to manage old right-of-ways with safe access. And I think it's a prime example of why that was institutionalized through the ordinance. So those are the conditions. I would pass it back for any questions or comments from the board as we look at it in respect to the ordinance. Thank you.
Greg, is the existing right-of-way primarily there to serve the lot on the Pligs and Days survey with the topo information on it?
I'd say at least, Bill, I would say at least 3 lots have, I wouldn't say primary, because at least 3 lots have rights over that right of way. So I don't find a distinction in the word primary versus that. I think our application is to improve our client's property, but I wouldn't say that any more right is more important than the other.
Yeah. So that topo lot is the Kennedy lot. And then the other lot is the Metzger lot, and that Metzger lot was undeveloped as well.
There's 2 Metzger.
Yeah, there's two Metzger's lots.
Sorry, I should clarify the William Metzger lot.
That's correct. Neither of the Metzger and or William Metzger lots are improved at the moment, and they do each have rights on the right of way.
Got it. Does the town have rights on the right of way?
Negative, no.
Yeah. Did you ever try to acquire a wider right of way in the lot in front of the Kennedy lot between the Kennedy lot and Sinclair Road?
We have not attempted, but it physically wouldn't occur as we approach the front. There's a structure right at the entrance of the road. And based on the historical access and it not being a new right of way, we physically haven't sought that out, understanding that the practicality of it. But there is a building right on the corner that a simple widening of it would, and I could be happy to show you that photo.
Yeah, so there's a lot, again, between, I'm talking about the lot between the Kennedy lot and Sinclair Road with the house on it, on the west side of the right of way. And Kim's saying it's what,
Lot 26.
Lot 26.
Yes. The response to that, Bill, is no, though you would still hit a bottleneck at the intersection of this lot. So it's a fair question. Fair question. And the answer is no, we have not.
Greg, could you just pull up the site plan one more time? Sorry.
Oh, I thought I had, sorry,
Yeah.
I had the
Yeah, great, thank you.
so the in considering the physical existing conditions, no, we haven't sought a widening of the easement, considering that the safe access for the dwelling can be obtained. I don't think there's a question of that, and I think that you know, the historical right of way and road bed are there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So not to be a pain, Greg, but you know, the board is generally in the compliance business and not the waiver business. And you know, I look at this and just, you know, straight face reaction was, you know, you've got a completely open field in the back, the Kennedy lot, and you've got on that lot in front of it, north of it, with the house on it, the house isn't hard to the existing 16.5-foot right of way. I mean, you got some room there. You know, I would think that it might be well-intentioned to approach them about potentially widening the right-of-way there. Because then it seems like you could potentially have a compliant right-of-way then if they were in agreement with that and you just shifted it on the Kennedy lot.
Yeah, so I guess I can appreciate that comment in a right-of-way, but if the actual action is to provide safe access, a right-of-way is just a line on paper. And we would still be going through the same exercises as creating a driveway access for the development of this parcel. So I can appreciate the sentiment of we should go ask everybody for easements in the neighborhood. I would ask the board to, or at least Bill, you point to the section of the ordinance where it says applicants shall exhaust options for obtaining rights from adjoining property owners. What I actually read is that application of the strict land use ordinance or physical conditions of the site render strict compliance impossible. So I guess the physical conditions, if you're considering a physical condition of a right of way, I don't know. I don't find in the ordinance the authority for the board to suggest we go ask for right of ways, or that's been history. If there's something that points us to that, I've had to discuss around that point a little further. It's a little surprising, but I'm happy to understand more.
Yeah, and and again, Greg, we've had a number of these before the board lately. And I have to tell you that this one feels like one of the least challenged ways to get in. We've had some really constricted sites, some really just very difficult topography. We've had, other site features that, make a waiver request, really happen. When you pull onto the site, it's quite open. And I again circle back to the mission of the board and in terms of these waiver requests, and I'm not feeling yet that all the options have been exhausted. And but I'd also like to hear from other board members too. What do you think, Christy? Not to put you on the spot.
But you will. I mean, I didn't go to the site visit, so I have to apologize for that. So I don't have that situational awareness of the site, but I do agree with you that, as much as possible, we want to nudge towards compliance and not waivers.
What do you think, Meredith? You look deep in thought.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I think, I guess, Greg can go ask if that'd be the Eatons, if they give them a wider right of way, but I guess I just don't see any reason why they would. And I guess the other thing, so the backside is owned. The backside's the sewage treatment plant. I guess that was my other thought, was if it's safety and we want compliance, is there something that the town could offer? I think it would be more reasonable to go to the town, since it's just a sewage waste treatment plant, and give them access to the lot over the town. So all sorts of opportunities on the town lot there to give them safe access to the lot, if that's what we're after.
Greg, I just think that, like, if there was an attempt made in approaching the Eatons, and if they say nowhere, this can't be an agreement reached on widening that, I think it just strengthens the foundation of the waiver request, given, I just have to humbly say, the lack of site challenges with this one.
So I'm hearing, and I want the board to know I'm listening to them. And so I do want to just clarify a couple of different things about that request before we carry on. Then the request of the right of way, would we, let's think about or expand upon, should we obtain, I don't know, a 50-foot wide array? What do we, the subdivision ordinance would say you need a 50-foot wide right of way and a cul-de-sac at the end of it. And so if the goal is compliance, are we looking for a 50-foot wide right of way and a 22-foot wide road, in a road which would be wider than Sinclair Road? I'm actually just making sure I'm clearly understanding. If we've exhausted options, I'd like to know then what we are going to be asked to construct, because in the end, I mean, I am super sensitive to legal aspects of right of ways and all that. And I hear the board, sure, we want to make sure we can nudge towards compliance, but I also like a little feedback if we think that then we're going to be asked, let's say we are successful, maybe as we forthright answered, we haven't pushed hard for a 50-foot wide right of way because for a single family residence that's being permitted, that driveway could fit there. Other than the fact that there are other lots that aren't developed, for this lot it could. So maybe you guys could speak in through the board or discuss a bit about expectations on the construction side of that, which might inform how we take go at it from here, and that may actually help how we might actually even approach either the abutters or anybody else to exhaust what I'm hearing as concerns of the boards. Maybe I could hear some of that feedback.
Tracy.
Oh, I don't know how to start, but I just thinking. So, if they were to request an increase in the width of the right of way to the Eatons, I guess the question is, how much are they? How much, how much are they going to ask? Ideally, how much width are we asking for? And then, that's question number one. And then I guess what I wanted to say to you, Greg, and I'm going to say this in the nicest way.
Yep.
I guess I guess we're trying to figure out if we were to grant a waiver, usually it's because we find that there's a hardship with compliance. So if we figure out how much of an increase in width we would like to have,
So for it to be compliant, let's put it in perspective, Kim. What does that mean?
Well, as you know, the section refers to 514 of the subdivision ordinance, which has requirements to bring in the right-of-way up to a minimum of 50 feet, roadway of 16 with 3-foot shoulders, so ideally 22 feet, 16 travel. The shoulders don't have to be actually, drivable. They do need to be stable enough for a fire truck, with the weight of a fire truck, to be able to get on them. They could be vegetated. I guess it's up to you, ideally up to you guys, but the ordinance says 514, and you have to look at it like Tracy just says, the hardship, can this be met? And if it can't, and they can't get a right of way, then they've got to work with what they have.
Greg,
but also you gotta keep in mind too that lot 26, if they do widen the right of way and do a wider roadway and go on that lot, you can't make that lot non-conforming because you can't count the land under the roadway.
Right.
As part of the lot size, so that has to be looked at also.
yeah, okay.
So that good feedback. I think one of the, sorry, I wasn't taking any cues. I was just reading the section 6.1. So however, in all cases, I think where you guys are saying the board must find that the proposed plan brings the road in compliance as much as feasible. And then the terms of that jurisdiction, as much as feasible, is the question at the moment, right? I guess I'm going to hand to that we're talking about the road, and why I do question the right of ways. Ultimately, we want to know what would be constructed, and so as much as feasible would depend on a right of way sort of discussion. Have we lost sound? We still have sound?
No,
No,
we're here. We hear you.
So I guess what I would say then, if that's the board's deferment, that we do some work on the right of way and explore our options, and then support what the results of that was with the proposal for a road. That's I guess what the board is suggesting.
I think you just summed it up there, Greg. I'd say just a bit more legwork on that, maybe, and either way, it's gonna strengthen the application.
Sure. So on the onset, I did question the board's ability to say, hey, go look at the right of ways, but I think as the term under as much as feasible, I think is probably vague enough to not allow an appeal on either side that would make that pivotable. So I'm comfortable with, I guess, the discussion the boards have surrounded, and particularly the comments Kim made about the road and being able to support vehicle traffic. One thing we kind of want to get away from, and I know you guys do a lot of planning, is that a lot of the road standards are antiquated or they're cross-referenced from new subdivisions. And in roads and neighborhoods, you know, big, wide, cleared gravel roads is what we kind of want to avoid. So if we can clear towards determining that it is as much as feasible and think about creative ways of not creating a big gravel open space. I understand what the board is, and that's our goal.
Greg, in past board approvals of waiver requests, I think there's, you know, it's still a human process, and that we have taken into consideration of, you know, if it were, you know, the context of the road waiver request. I mean, obviously, you know, we've had instances where, you know, full compliance just doesn't make sense. You know, it's out of scale, it's out of character. You know, we push towards compliance as best we can, but some of those subjective characteristics of the road design and the context it sits in have significant merit.
Understood. And we have, Bill had the experience of where in the portion of a road waiver, a portion where the right of way was wider, that portion of the road was widened. And I think you recall, and then where the right of way was not and could not be obtained, the road was narrowed yet was acceptable. So I think that seemed like a pretty reasonable approach. So I hear what the board's saying. If we would be able to provide the additional information requested by the board and a proposal that reacts to that, we'll act accordingly.
Yeah. So let me just reach out to the other board members. Is everybody kind of in agreement with that approach?
Yes, I am. Tracy Keller. Yeah.
Christie's nodding her head.
Christie's
Yes,
nodding her head.
Yes, I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Could we do entertain a continuation to the next meeting and see what we happen between now and the next meeting? Because we are, this has been advertised, and I think that would carry us forward. If that's something the board would entertain, so we would have an opportunity to not, I want to say re-advertise, but have a date certain from this period that would give us a backstop for answering the request.
I have no objection to that request.
Yep.
Tracy's nodding her head yes.
This sounds very reasonable.
Christie, yes. Meredith, yes.
Do we have a January meeting date?
That's Greg. The meeting date's gonna be January 19th instead of the 12th.
The 19th instead of the 12th?
Yeah, because the 12th, we scheduled the quarry continuation on, which is a normal planning board date. So we bumped the 12th date for a regular meeting to the 19th,
So get ready, planning board members. In January, we have
3 meetings.
3 meetings in a row.
Thanks. We can work underneath that.
Make a motion to continue this hearing to the next regular meeting on January 19th, 2022.
Will there be public comment available?
Of course, please.
Thank you. Is now the time?
Now's the time, and we're gonna have another opportunity on the 19th as well, too.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Board. We are Bill and Ann Metzger, and we are the abutting neighbors on the other side of Raspberry Lane as it goes back and serves our 2 lots. We want you to know that we are very respectful of your consideration of the proposal. We are in support of Greg Johnston's request for the waiver. We believe that the road is historically sufficient and would be sufficient going forward. We appreciate that codes change for municipalities over time. And so you have different regulations to incorporate, but we actually feel that both for the continuity of the neighborhood, the integrity of its modest and remote access there off Sinclair Road, and the historic trees that are on the Eaton lot, which are quite large. And I'm not sure if in your scope you think that if something's going to be widened either by right or by construction, that we would lose some of the lovely vegetation that's there. So thank you for including us. And you have a comment?
We've owned land there for a long time. We love the neighborhood the way it is. We would very much appreciate if you would consider leaving the road at 14 feet, if that would, I'm sorry, 16 feet, please.
I'll say too, in the past, that the board has taken into consideration vegetation, existing mature trees, as a primary consideration in the granting of a waiver request. I mean, again, the existing character of the road does have merit and consideration in the board's deliberation.
Well, thank you very much for taking that in consideration. I know it sounded like some of you had the opportunity to go on Raspberry Lane. We actually named the street Raspberry Lane because when we bought it a long time ago, there were raspberries growing there. So it's a little bit of local lore, but we very much appreciate you taking into consideration what our requests are, please.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Hi.
This is also the Kennedys. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, we can.
Greetings.
Okay, hi. I thank you, Metzgers, for speaking up here as well. We purchased this property we sort of exhausted the understanding that the existing road was all we needed to abide by when we purchased the property fairly recently. And it's only recently come up that we have to extend the size of this road for compliance reasons. And to the Metzger's point, the road fits itself, and there were pre-existing structures back there that this road was built for. Now, to their point, these were done back in the day when the road was compliant. Now, I understand the fire chief has come on and he said it's good, it'll work for him. And the other issue is you're missing another lot on this, which is the, what's his name, Hillary? What's the, Parat Bissell's house is also on this road. And there's a telephone pole and it's about 2 feet from his house. So if you widen this road too much, which side of the road do you extend into? The last 2 feet on the Parat side as well? So there's some other pieces to this puzzle. And we also had to go and get a variance to build on this based on an environmental stream there. Now that's what the culvert comes across. And so if you widen it, you start to go into the environmental part of this property. So perhaps can we bring that into this appeal?
Well, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you need a negative to prove a positive. And I think that just the board's sentiment is just you need a little bit more rebar in the foundation for this application to stand on. And those are all valid considerations we have taken into consideration in the past.
And also, the thing is, when you keep going to compliance, you dig into the sides of the properties. And then when you start to do that, remember, you have variances. We can't build within 10 feet of the road. or 20 feet of the road. So now the width of my property becomes smaller and smaller, and therefore I can't build on it. So these are kind of things that I think maybe before sales are done on these kind of lots, that the ruling is a little more, obvious, because it's like I'm coming to the fact after I've done an enormous amount of work with architectural review board, my own architecture, Mr. Johnson here, and thorough discussions with Kim. And all of a sudden now, I may have to build a 50-foot wide road. I just, I'm sort of at a point where you will hear from us in January. And I don't mean it in a mean way. I mean, like, no. I'm sort of taken back by it's just, and I understand compliance, and I do. I understand that. I understand fire safety, but I think the Metzgers hit it right on a point, which is it fits the properties that are there, and it doesn't make sense to have a road wider than Sinclair. I think that.
And as I've repeated, is in the past decisions of the board, each of these waiver requests is a very unique condition that the board considers individually, and each, there's special considerations for each and every one of these. And I think our decisions in the past have really taken into consideration the context in which these old roads sit in. So just a little bit more information for the board will strengthen everything, and we look forward to hearing from you guys again on the 19th.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody's efforts, and especially with all what's going on with COVID and everything. So thank you for everybody.
Thank you very much, Ann and Bill Metzger.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to point out to you guys the importance of the context of the planning board is, the decisions that we make kind of set a precedent of the other decisions that we've made. So we're not telling you no. We're saying that the application is thin for the request. It's not that we're turning you down. We're just saying, yeah, you guys are talking about all these arguments, put it in the application, so that if we uphold your application, we've got we need to have meat in the application to tell the next applicant why we approved your waiver and maybe not their waiver. It's just saying, put it all down, put it in the application, beef up the application, because
let me help you go in our way,
so that we as a planning board are on solid ground making the decisions that we make. We are not telling you no at this point. We're telling you just put more beef into your application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've listened and heard both from everybody. I think they're all good points, and Bill will be back with some deeper investigations to answer, I think, the responses the board has provided. So thanks for all your time tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, Greg. All right, we're going to soldier on.
Happy holidays.
Yes,
that's it for me.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Under section 5 tonight, we have item B, another road waiver request. We have property owners Robert Lamar Hardy Jr. Applicant is, and please excuse me if I don't get this correct, Aldo Adriazzola.
Close enough, sir.
All right, thank you. The agent is Margaret Jeffrey. Property location is off Harborside Road, Northeast Harbor. Tax map 26, lot 25002. Zone is residential 1, and the purpose is request a waiver of the street design and construction standards of section 5.14 of the subdivision ordinance for an existing private road. We had a site inspection at 3:15 and was This one,
Advertised in the butters, yes.
yeah, so this one was,
23rd, the butters, the 23rd.
thank you, abutters were notified and it was advertised. And I'll ask if there's any conflict of interest on the board with this one. I just have to see how the board feels about this too, is that the abutter who, Mr. Whitman and his counsel here tonight are, Mr. Whitman is a client of our architecture firm, and we have an active project with them. If the board considers that a conflict of interest with the application and our relationship to an abutter, I can recuse myself, but I'll leave it to you guys.
I think that Meredith won't like me to say this, but I think it would be appropriate for you to recuse yourself.
Christie?
How do you feel about it? I mean, do you feel like you need to recuse yourself?
In this case, with Mr. Whitman being an abutter, not the applicant. I feel like I can completely remain unbiased as I always do, and I can steer us through this as chairman. And so I'm not feeling a tremendous urge to recuse myself on this one.
Meredith, did you weigh in yet?
I don't think we've ever, I don't think we've ever asked anybody to recuse themselves because they had a relationship with an abutter. I don't know that it would have ever even crossed my mind if I had a client on one.
That's what I'm getting at too, and
Yeah.
I'll ask the applicant as well. Margaret, would you have any issue if I stayed on as chair? You're muted, Margaret.
No, I don't think I have an objection. I'm sorry I don't have the opportunity to discuss this with my client, but I would say no, that will be fine.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
So I guess I'm gonna stay on here and we're gonna keep rolling then.
All right.
All right, so we had when was the site visit? That was 3:15, and it was a well-attended site visit. We had the applicant, Mr. Adriazzola. We had the realtor there, Beth Ingebrigtsen, as well as the Sweet family who owns the Harborside Inn. And Tracy and I attended the site visit as well. And perhaps Tracy, you'd like to comment on the site visit?
Well, I was a little bit late getting there, but I made it. And my observation of it is that the lane comes right off of Harborside and goes uphill, and the subject lot is toward the very back of the plan that we were able to see, a little bit to the right. And the road starts out as sort of a packed gravel driveway, and then it appears to me that there's a right-of-way that goes uphill and decreases in width, and it's a lovely woods, and there is the roadway or cartway that goes up through there. Looks like it's fairly well hard packed. And when I got there, you gentlemen were just beginning to discuss where the different services would be located with it, in what proximity. And it looked like quite a nice site, and that you had things nicely planned as to where septic would go and the well, and where your proposed siting of the house would be. And I see that even though the road is narrow and there's some trees, I believe you spoke saying that you recognize that you may have to remove some trees that were right along the roadway, but you're trying to keep the aesthetic just the way it is. Is that a pretty good representation of what? So,
I'm gonna add a couple things to that, is that
okay.
the applicant did convey that a primary intent of, if the back lot was to be developed, to maintain the character of the road going up to the property. The road, just for the record, is located at 42 Harborside, and 42 Harborside is also kind of the back entrance to the Harborside hotel up there. So they have a back structure, maybe 100 feet off of Harborside Drive, where patrons of the hotel will come up, and there's a turnaround and pull in there and kind of go in the back door, so to speak. And then the road continues up the hill to the subject lot. That road is also, a fair portion of it is paved. And then it's also used by the Harborside Hotel as the harbor. This is all what the Harborside, the owners, the Sweet family, were conveying at the site visit too. Is that's an old walking trail up the hill there as well. And
Okay.
we talked about that a little bit at the application, or at the site visit, that the applicant, if the subject lot were to be developed, that kind of foot traffic, that historical foot traffic up the hill would be allowed to be maintained, that. So, and that there are the sewer, they explain that too. Is the subject lot is a small, tight lot. They had it staked out where the septic would go. They found a well location in kind of the upper northwestern corner of the lot where the drilled well would go, in compliance with the distance from the septic. It's a heavily wooded lot as you traverse up the hill. There is a lot of character and historical use of that road going up the hill. And Margaret, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I represent Aldo Adriazola, who is under contract to purchase from the current owner. And we're before you, the planning board, and appreciate the time that you all are dedicating to this process. Thank you, Chairman Hanley and the rest of the planning board. We're asking for a variance from full compliance in the road standards. The ordinance states that in order to develop property, in order to place a home on a property, the property has to fully be in compliance with the street design and construction standards in subdivision. In this case, this is an existing lot. It was created in 1973. And it has a 20-foot right-of-way going from Harborside Lane to Harborside Drive to the lot. The lot itself has never been developed. It is in its natural state right now, with the exception of this road and a continuation of this road in a kind of rural historical way. We are proposing that it will have, that the future owners will be able to build a home on the lot, and therefore, and find that they cannot comply with the street design and construction standards because their right of way is only 20 feet wide. They don't have the 50 feet. They've asked neighbors whether they can expand the right of way to 50 feet. And they've heard response from 2 of the neighbors saying that they would much prefer not to, or they will not grant a 50-foot right of way. The 3rd neighbor we have not heard from. But the comments from the neighbors were also that they really want to retain the character of the road. And for those of you who went to the site meeting earlier today, see that there is true character in this road, and it represents the character that you see in other parts of Northeast Harbor as well. Some kind of like the confluence of human development and the natural setting in its best form. And so the applicants are requesting that they be able to develop their single family dwelling on the Hardy lot without making huge changes to the road itself, and certainly without having the 50-foot wide right of way. There are, I don't know whether you have seen the schematic that that I sent by email earlier today. And I know that we do have paper copies of that. I didn't realize that as many people would be calling in on Zoom as are. And I know that Aldo has, Mr. Adriazola has copies of that. Was that provided to you?
Margaret, we're about to share it.
Okay, thank you.
Stand by 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome. That is beautiful. Thank you. So this schematic shows the roadway as you go up through, and it also shows the width of the road at various places. You can see that it comes off Harborside Road and goes northward. This schematic shows that there's a 20-foot, it's 12 feet wide at the first place that I see a measurement. It's 11.5 feet wide at the second place, 12.4 feet wide at the third location, and then 13.4 feet wide, 14 feet wide. And then I think the last one I see is 12 feet, 8 inches wide. So, yeah.
10 feet, 8 inches to 16.
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, the 10-foot 8 is the actual paved or gravel portion, but then the actual way where it's kind of deteriorated a bit going through the granite curbs is 16 foot.
Earlier in November before Thanksgiving, the Chief Bender came to the site and observed the road and for safety, and determined and sent an email with his findings or his determination on what would be required in order to ensure safe travel over this road. And he made 4 bullet points of requirements. The first one was that he stated that the entrance off of Harborside Drive should be widened slightly, or it should be widened to provide easy access for larger vehicles, and that's understandable. He also stated that turns in the driveway should be improved. I know that there are times when you actually want the turns to be slightly wider, and you'll see that in this case, the turns, at least the turn that's 13.4 inches wide, is wider than elsewhere along the road. He also stated that there should be a hammerhead at the end, and I'll point that out in a second, and that improvements should be to the standard that they are 12 feet wide with the 14.5 foot tube without vegetation, horizontal and vertical. So as to the hammerhead, we haven't quite worked that out as a definitive proposal, but you can see in the schematic that's up on the screen that Mr. Adriazola has proposed a hammerhead that comes up and then turns toward the east, and it's a turnaround area. Thank you. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. So this roadway on the 20-foot right-of-way has been the access road to the abutter, the owner of lot, it's map 26, lot 26. That home has been in existence for over 100 years. And so presumably this roadway has been accessed for various trucks for oil delivery, et cetera. And hopefully not, but emergency vehicles potentially as well. And we are proposing another similar home on this particular property. And with that, I welcome your questions.
Would Mr. Adriazola like to add anything to Margaret's presentation?
I think Margaret's done a wonderful job of summarizing our intent here. And for those of you who are at the site visit today, you heard me say, but for the rest of you, I'll repeat myself. My goal is to build a home that is consistent with the character of the neighboring homes, the Delights property, as well as 42 Harborside Drive, and to preserve as best as possible the characteristics of the neighborhood, keeping things as wooded and secluded as they are today. That's what the charm that appeals to us, and we want to preserve that going forward.
Given that we've got some members of the public here in attendance as well as online, I'm going to open it up for public comment as well. And Mr. Whitman, if you'd like to comment on the application or your counsel, feel free.
Or I'm not familiar with these types of meetings, so I have retained counsel to help me. But I did want to add that this my house, which is on the survey, 19 Delights Road, and this the main survey actually is the survey of my house, is the hardy land that we're talking about was actually the garage plot for that house. And as the land got distributed among family members, it became a plot in itself. So it wasn't originally a housing lot itself. It was it had a garage on it. And my only concern, I absolutely believe that that the owner has the right to build a house, and I would like to retain the nature of the road. But I also think that this grant has everything to do with building the house. So I personally would like to see the actual designs for the house, or the more accurate rendering of how big the house is, because there's a problem of access. There's also 2 empty lots north of this property, which will most likely, I know the owner, and he has some interest in the future of building something. So there will be activity coming through. And there's also a problem with sewage. There's a lot of granite and slope and areas that can't be developed on this property, so that they have to use a aerated sewer system, which is essentially pumping air and chlorine into a sewer. And that's quite difficult in that it produces a smell, and it also the processed water that comes out of it is chlorinated, and so it's obviously very close to the national park. And I just feel that I think everyone here agrees that we shouldn't just expand the road by 50 feet. That would be drastic, and I'm sure there could be some compromise, but perhaps it should be all delayed into a time when we see the whole project, so that we can discuss. In other words, if you widen the driveway too much, then you're not going to be able to fit in the sewage. If the house is too large, then you can't fit the sewage or the driveway. In other words, I think that it might better be all combined, or at least disclose what the more detailed plans would be. But that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Dave Sweet, and I don't think the road should be changed at all. I've seen fire trucks up that road. And as far as the hammerhead goes, you already got one. It's called Tilly's driveway.
Yes.
And it's right next to their lot that they want to purchase. On the east side, after Harborside's piece of land, there's a retaining wall 3 feet tall on the right side of the road, holds the road. So the road can't go that way, it shouldn't. Down at the bottom of the road, at the intersection of Western Driveway, we call it the Western Driveway, in Harborside Road, are 2 storm drains, one on the right side, one on the left side. And if anyone remembers coming into Northeast Harbor in January and February, it's excavated. And if one of them plugs, or both of them, is really excavated. I wouldn't frig with that road at all.
Beth?
I just want to mention that I was there with Chief Bender, and as Mr. Sweet spoke, the driveway that is for 42 is a very easy way to do a hammerhead. There would just be minimal trees that would need to be taken to then go into the property on that existing road. I believe that my clients put the hammerhead within the property to show that it could be done. However, like I said, when we were discussing it, Chief Bender was very comfortable with using the driveway that you can see on the plan right outside of the property line. So it would be a lot less, clearing of trees and all of that. So I just wanted to mention that, as you said.
Does this lot though have access to that driveway for that kind of
No
use?
legal access, and we have not engaged with the current owner, but that's something that if we can get past, the waiver, that we would say, do we do the hammerhead on this hardy lot, or do we work with the neighbor to see if there's alternatives to do less tree cutting, less lot coverage?
I mean, the reality is too, I mean, given the fairly small size of this lot, you know, if a house were to be built there, you're gonna have to turn a car around somehow.
Sure,
right?
of course.
So even if it's not for a fire truck, you're gonna have some kind of dooryard,
Yeah.
some kind of driveway termination that makes sense for, parking and and turning radiuses.
Yeah, and currently we've shown, because we don't have any specifications yet from the fire chief for the jurisdiction, but a alternative hammerhead that is specified by the International Fire Code.
Yeah.
So it's 120 feet long and 70 feet wide, and so if there's any way to lessen that so that there's less impact on the lot, we're certainly very interested in that, but we want to show here's what kind of the maximum is, and if we can get anything less than that and still maintain safe access, we are very interested in that.
Have you consulted the chief at all in the specifics of that hammerhead design?
We have not.
That might be something that would be to your benefit to
Yes.
do. Beth, you had mentioned at the site visit that there was a septic design, or that
Yep.
the site, there is.
Yep.
Is there any record of that provided with the waiver request? It doesn't look like it.
We have paperwork from a septic engineer, but we did not submit it with the application, but that can be provided.
So you've got a butter here with I think a valid concern about that. And, I think everything on the property is again is valid because it's also helping paint the picture of the context in which the waiver request needs to exist in. And as we saw with the previous application, context is everything, right? So I think your application stands stronger with the more foundation you can provide for it. And Mrs. Tilney, you've got your hand up.
I do, thank you. I have a couple of things that I just wanted to comment about, and that is, well, first of all, when when Mr. Whitman was talking, the red line that was drawn around on the map was not his house. That was Gray Rock's. His house was over to the left of the property that we're talking about, and his property abuts that, and so his house is off of the map, just so that everybody understands. And two, the driveway, a great deal of that driveway is on my property, and I have often had to fix that driveway in the winter time, after the winter, because it's on a hill, and the hill comes from way above the driveway, and we get a great deal of water depending upon the winter due to snow. And I don't know how that might affect things, but I do know that there's a great deal of water also where this person would like to build their house. There's a natural spring that goes right near where that location is that he's talking about. That's just something to think about in terms of septic. And I mean, that's a natural area. And if we're talking about a septic system, which may require chlorine to clean the water, and as Fife Whitman suggested, I think that is a major concern. As far as widening the driveway 50 feet, that's not something that I would like to see happen by any means. I think it's a very small piece of property, kind of in a interesting part of the landscape. It's got a lot of rock. It's shallow in terms of the amount of dirt, between the surface and the rock ledges, and it's just a a quirky area, and I wonder if that's really doable. But thank you for letting me make a comment. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Thanks. I'm Justin Bennett, attorney. I filed a notice of representation.
Yep.
Mr. Whitman earlier today. Just to reinforce what he was saying, I put a request in for a postponement as well. I appreciate the right notice has been given to hold this meeting, but essentially that's 10 days notice for Mr. Whitman to try and get a response together that's detailed and meaningful. I've been trying to find a local consultant expert. They're busy, and there's reasons why the three I've approached. So there's that issue. So I'd be looking for a postponement for that reason, along with his request to have a better overall understanding of what development's going to happen and how that's going to fit in. There's a technical issue. Margaret said that 2 of the 3 people who about the road have responded to the request to increase the road. I don't think people are looking to increase it to 50 feet anyway. However, there is a 3rd person by the sounds of it who hasn't replied. And just hearing your comments at the earlier session, I'd be interested to see, or just wait for that person to reply as well, so you have a kind of full understanding.
You just did. You just
Was
did.
that Anne? Okay.
Yeah.
That 3rd person is here.
Okay then, so there's that issue. You're being asked to, compared to the subdivision requirements, you're being asked to do a lot of deviation from those requirements in terms of 50-foot road. There's a reference, I think, of measurements down by Harborside Road of about 9 feet at that point. There's a request from the fire chief to say that the entrance has to be extended wider. And it's got a measurement, I think, of 30 feet along Harborside Road of the entrance. Now, where you measure the entrance from, I don't know, but at that point, it's 30 feet and beyond the 20-foot wide right-of-way. So, I mean, if this is what I'd be asking, if you're looking at this tonight.
Widening the road there at the entrance, you can't do it.
But the fire chief has recommended it should be widened in terms of the fire chief's requirement for what's necessary. So there's that issue just to process as well. I'd like some time to think about that and perhaps run that past the consultant. There's turns in the driveway, and I don't have the technical detail in terms of the fire chief is saying that the radius, I think he called it, of those turns has got to be improved, but I don't know exactly what he's looking for as an answer to that. And there's issues about drainage. There's some ledge around there, but drainage certainly. And just general issues about how to extend that road. So generally there's an opposition, but the request really is to postpone this so Mr. Whitman can get a better understanding of what's happening.
And I'll say this, then we had a new submittal here tonight that, that we, are only processing now. And it's a very helpful submittal too. I mean, seeing how, the lot may be configured and the road terminated too. Did you have a comment on documentation earlier, Kim? Or?
Oh, it's no different than what you're asking the previous was,
Yeah.
They said that they had approached abutters, but got verbal no's, but you should have documentation stating that they're not willing to widen it.
You should have letters from 2 of them. The facility just gave you the verbal now, but you should have letters from the other 2.
Okay.
When did those, who are they from? Because I don't think we got them.
One was from Mr. Whitman, and the other was from the Sweet family.
Okay.
And then the 3rd letter that we sent out was to Ms. Tilney, Ms. Brun, and she's here today.
We don't have anything from the Sweets.
No.
We do have one from the email from Mr. Whitman.
Okay. I did not forward the one from the Sweets, but they are here today in the and making the same comment that they had made in their email, and that is that they wish that the road retain its current character and that it not be widened. I think that's, I don't mean to paraphrase you, John, but that's what I'm hearing. May I make a couple of comments that,
Sure. Actually,
just-
Dave, hold on a second, Margaret. Dave, you had your hand up earlier. Did you?
Just on the east side, where the driveway enters Harborside Road, on the east side, there's a drainage ditch with water in it running right now. And also the storm drain that the water goes into. It's right next to the road. You can't widen the road. You've got drainage issues.
Yeah.
The road is it. It is what it is, and you can't change it.
Margaret.
Fire truck makes it up that
Yes.
road. I've seen it go up that road. It's been in the back driveway of Harborside Ave.
there is a 20-foot right of way that goes down to Harborside Road. And it shows here, actually, there's one of the call outs for the width of the road, and it looks like it gets a little more narrow, 9 foot 4 inches as you go close to Harborside Road. It is within a 20-foot right of way, and Mr. Adriazola is proposing to make that as wide as necessary for safety and to comply with what Chief Bender requires. But of course, as he stated, in keeping with his neighbors, he wishes that that road be retain the character. And so that he's proposed, I mean, the road will apparently, according to Chief Bender's report, the road will have to be widened. I doubt out to the full 20 feet wide for the travel way, because there will also have to be drainage issues that are addressed in that same area. And but I think it's going to be a matter of some road planning to allow the drainage and the passageway all in one location. And we're asking you for permission before the project goes underway. We're asking you for the permission to have a more narrow road and for a waiver from the street and design standards.
Margaret, to be candid, I think we're going to need a little more information to process that.
Okay. It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg, I have to say, because in order to, I mean, this is a project that this individual is getting into, and he would like to understand the general tenor of the planning board before developing the full plan, of course. So that is, I don't know. I guess what we should ask you is what kind of schematics and development the planning board would require.
I think that's the feedback the board would likely more be comfortable in providing. You know, again, as you said, it's the chicken and egg, and information is everything. And for us to make a long-standing decision on any application, the more information we have, the better. Meredith, you've got your hand up. Sorry.
I do. Thank you, Bill. I just had a quick question. I'm confused by the drawing that's on the screen now has the hammerhead on the lot. The other one, and there was mention of the right of way, does it not go through the middle of this lot? What's in the application, it looks like it actually goes through the middle of the lot, and somebody mentioned something about the owner of the lot to the north may someday want to sell that lot.
No, the owner, a previous owner, in the 1950s, I think, has relinquished any rights to the right of way through the Hardy land.
Well, I got a call from Mr. Nitz stating that he has a right to use that 20-foot wide right-of-way through that lot.
Previous deeds indicate otherwise.
1953.
I've heard about historic rights of way for walking that go through that lot as well earlier today. I'm not sure it's clear cut what rights of way go through.
There is a deed
He
from
states he has one, that he has a right to use it, because he told me.
the Hudsons, I believe the Hudsons, if they were the owners or the previous owners of what was this lot, the Hardy lot, as well as, I believe at the time, the Delights lot, 19 Delights Road. In about 1953, the owner of what is now its property, Mildred Stanza, I believe her name was, signed a document relinquishing her rights to pass through that area. And that lot and its property now has the right of way through the Gray Rock property off of Harborside.
I knew he had a right through that lot, but he stated he has a right through this lot. He said if I want his attorney to get involved, that he would have him involved. I just didn't ask him to go further with it. So you guys might want to make sure that Mr. Nitz has no right to that right of way.
The application.
We will be in touch with him.
Okay, yeah, because I would just to double check that.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Mhm.
Sure.
You got a 1976 survey plan in the application that shows that right of way.
And what'd you say, 1950 something?
1950.
Yeah,
It was
the
relinquished?
76 survey plan shows a right of way going straight through.
Yeah, I would just check on that.
And if you go through all the deeds and do the meets
Yeah.
and bounds, the center plot line of that right of way stops right at this party lot and does not actually, there's no record that I found going back to. And
Actually, Margaret, I'll send you, I think he emailed me. I'll send you Mr.
Yeah, I really
Nitz's-
appreciate that, Kim, because the relinquishment of the right of way has been called to my attention, and it was quite clear. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Just look into that, because like I said, when he got his notice as an abutter, he specifically notified me, he has a right to use that. So I just wanted to let you know.
It seems to me that you guys have some work to simply do, and that the sort of comment about the chicken and the egg, you've got bullet points from Mike Bender of things that he'd like, and they may not be doable. The idea of the hammerhead being on the lot, that was my immediate reaction was, can't you just use that driveway that's down there that's just off the lot as part of your hammerhead? And clearly that's come up, but is it 20 feet wide? There's all these things that I guess I presume at least that we try to make Mike Bender happy if we gave you the waiver. So at least show us how close we can get to what his requests, and if there are things that can't be done that he requested, let's discuss that with him and show Mike Bender why you couldn't achieve
We
those.
turn the screen share off so we can see the other board members. Thanks. Meredith, kind of relative to that comment too, I think there's maybe a disconnect in the continuity of the information being provided too, where we've got a very developed lot layout and the hammerhead and the turning radius is indicated. And then we've got a site plan, being used from 1976, and Bender requesting some very specific modifications for it. And I think everything's just gotta kind of be correlated better and kind of brought up to maybe a more current day understanding of what's there and how it's presented to the board, and the decision to be based on that, including, the septic design information, if any modifications the fire chief is requesting, what that actually translates to on plan. And and Margaret, that's always the burden of the applicant.
I understand. One thing I would like to bring up, though, is the issue of such things as the septic and the siting of the home. And well, presumably, well, the well, but not so much. But to what extent is that, are those all issues that have to be presented to the planning board rather than to the code enforcement officer?
That's a really good question.
I don't think that's valid. That's
I
not the board's jurisdiction.
That's
I
right.
I would agree with Kim on that, however, as, you heard from the previous application and, historically in other waiver requests review, I think that's part of the discussion about context. And yes, there's some subjectivity to it. It's not the board's purview to review the design of the house. It's not the board's purview to review the specifics of the septic design, but you've got a concerned abutter next door. And, I think, where this process is still a human one. And if there were, looking on, in the worst case scenario, if there were ever an appeal, again, I think information is foundation, and the more information you can provide, the better. Is that absolutely required? No.
I would think that that information is relevant here just because it's such a small lot. And so in terms of a lot of the things that you could or couldn't do, the hammerhead just takes over the whole entire lot. So you've sort of shown that you can fit a house and there is a spot to put a septic. And I guess I had viewed that came up in the context of, this is such a tiny lot. Here's how it all potentially could fit in there. It could be done. Not that we're reviewing, it's just, we can't be creating an illegal or a unreasonable lot. And it could become part of your hardship of like, he's asking for a hammerhead, we have to put it on the lot, and then we can't build on the lot.
Well, we're not creating a lot. The lot is not being created through this process.
No.
The right of way is not being created through this process. The lot and the right of way have been there since the lot was divided off in 1973.
Oh,
Right,
yeah, and
but
we're creating a situation where you couldn't provide all the things. Just it becomes part of the context, as Bill says. That would be part of your argument, so it may become relevant in how you choose to discuss this, but it's not that the board has a reason to review what your choice of house design or septic design. That's not. That's
Mr. Whitman had a comment.
Just that I agree that it's all interrelated. So it's important for, if we don't know, for instance, it's Mr. Nitz's right-of-way situation. He's fairly adamant that he has a 20-foot right-of-way through that. And you're required, obviously, to build a dwelling that someone lives in. You're required to have a number of things. And that has to be integrated with how emergency vehicles can also get to that. So it's all, can you fit all those things into one space? I'm just interested in that. And so I realize it's not an issue of this particular meeting, but it might be. If you make a decision as to how the access is, that's going to change all the other access points.
So I'm looking at the clock and it's 8:53 p.m. and the board has a policy of drawing a hard line in the sand at 9 p.m. And guys being my fellow board members, where do you want to go from here with this?
might we continue this to a date certain in January?
That's kind of what I'm feeling, yes. And
I guess I think we should give the applicant what the options are. Is the date, I wasn't clear on why the previous applicant wanted to a date certain. Is there a benefit to that, or can we just?
you don't have to notify.
It's just, we don't have to re-advertise and notify abutters.
Yeah.
If we were to continue this, I would request that it be heard. Well, I'm sorry, I can't consult with my client as to how long it will take to bolster the information.
I would wager, Margaret, that you're gonna need more time than between now and the 19th.
Mhm. And then the next meeting after that is 24 days later, 14 days later, and the 25th. Is that right?
January 26th.
February 25th. February 26th?
January.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
I think it's, I guess I would say you obviously this needs more discussion and review and information. I don't think there's anything more for the planning board to contribute. It's just a matter of whether you want this to be punted to a date certain, or whether we just drop it and then it'll have to be re-advertised to be able to be brought up again.
I mean, the advertising and a butter notification is a town obligation, and it's so, you know, it's a cost to the town, and, you know, as representatives of the town, you know, I think there's a benefit to the town of continuing to a date certain, but that's not necessary. I think if we, you know, I think there's a body of information there that, you know, just given how long everything's taking lately, that's probably gonna take between now and even the 26th to kind of coalesce together.
That makes sense to me, to continue this until the 26th and have it on the agenda for the 26th of January. And if I've experienced, my client's very able and will do what we can to put this together. Chief Bender has been very responsive. And I think that, and we'll be in touch with Mr. Neitze immediately. So I think that we might have some good success.
Would it make any sense just to make sure that you have enough time and that there are enough balls in the air here with this to maybe move it to a February meeting?
It's the first
you know, if we make it easy on the town by giving them a date certain, let's give you, you know, you can request plenty of time. It does not have to be the next. The town's not pressing.
Well, I think you should do the 26th, and Margaret, just get in touch with me if you don't feel you're gonna be able to make it.
Yes, I think that's all right. I think that's a good solution. And then we will not have a date certain. And we'll get in touch with you well enough in advance when we know that we're not going to have the information, if that does occur.
So you want the 26th, but if you know you're not gonna make that time frame.
Yes.
You'll let me know.
Yes.
I'll let you know in good. Yep. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, but the submissions have to be in at a certain time too, to be able to get it to the board members.
Okay.
And of course, I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I can let you know when I send you Mr. Nitz's email.
Okay, awesome. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And again, Margaret, just, you know, same day submissions are tough to process. You know, the more time everybody involved can have to just process everything, the better.
Well, and thank you. Yes. hopefully we will have plenty of time between now and the 26th.
Yes.
Mhm.
Would the board like to make a motion then on continuing this application to January 26th?
Meredith Randolph, I make a motion that we continue this application to the date certain, January 26th.
Anastasia, second.
All right, all those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Anastasia, aye.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
and myself, William Hanley, aye. All right. Thank you, and we'll see you on the 26th unless you let us know otherwise.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, item 6 on the agenda tonight, is there any other?
Not that I know.
Is there any other?
Just no.
Yeah, just that we've got the 3 back-to-back.
Yeah, you got 3
hearings.
back-to-back meetings. You've got obviously the quarry on January 12th. And then you got, because of the meeting being on the 12th, when we scheduled the quarry meeting, we didn't realize that that was one of your regular planning board meeting dates. So we had to bump the 12th regular meeting to the 19th. And then a meeting on the 26th. So you're gonna have 3 meetings in January.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say for now.
All right.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Please. And I'll take that yawn as a second.
Totally a second.
All those in favor, Meredith,
Randolph, I.
Christie,
Anastasia, aye.
Tracy,
Tracy Keller, I.
myself, William Hanley, aye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
You.
This friggin' battery died.
Oh, boy.